Hello and welcome back to the Ground Up Advanced Flight Tutorials. Thank you very much for joining me in this video. Last time out we learnt about STAR's standard arrival charts, or standard arrival route as a STAR actually means, and the one we looked at was London Heathrow via the Bovingdon approach. So there's Bovingdon right there, and the one we were following along was this one, the Bovingdon 4 Alpha, as we pretended that we took off from Manchester Airport, and then from Manchester Airport we brought ourselves down to the Honolulu VOR to begin this approach. After we did that, once we got to the Bovingdon VOR, we switched over to one of these. This is an initial approach procedure, an IAP, right up to London Heathrow, and as you can see, and as I explained, it ends at this point, the final approach point, or the final approach fix for in this case runways 9er left and 9er right. So we looked at that and we had a bit of understanding and explanation as to what that was. What we're going to be doing today is the final part of all these charts in the simplest of fashions. SID charts, STAR charts, IAPs, and the charts that we're going to be looking at today. I have gone into pretty much 90% of the information that you need. And in fact, for most approaches, that's all the information you will ever need. But there are a few charts that are slightly different in slight ways, which you need to have a look at, but we will be covering them as and when we come across them. So you should have an understanding of them. The charts, the IFR and VFR charts, those still have a little bit more to go, but also on that, we'll be doing that once we get to that stage. So I'm trying to keep things as simple as possible. And before I continue, if you are liking these videos, please do make sure you do hit that like button and leave a comment saying you learnt something from this video, because that's really important. It allows me to continue creating the tutorials and creating them in the fashion that I am creating them. Also, if you are interested, please do support me on Patreon, www.patreon.com/ecgadget. The $5 reward on that, or the $5 contribution, gives you a reward with access to the Discord channel and the Flight Sim Tutorials channel and the Patreon exclusive channel, as well as the lounge, which comes at any contribution. So if you're interested in that, please do that. In the Flight Sim Tutorials channel, you can feel free to ask me any question about aircraft, about flight, about these charts, about anything you want to know in terms of engineering, and I will answer them in a professional manner, referring to charts, books and diagrams if I have to do so, as I am qualified in that profession. So with that all out the way, let's get on with today's lesson. Today we are looking at approach charts. So that's the final point. So we've got to this point here for London Heathrow, and now we don't know what to do. And again, I want to stress, this is without radar control. This is if it's really quiet and ATC just are letting you follow it in as on the charts. More than likely, and more often than not, they won't be doing that. They will be sending you all over the place before you line up sort of at that point. But this is more, they would, if they were to vector you in, just to quickly go through this, if they were to vector you in from this point, from Bovingdon, they would say, let's say you're flying a British Airways aircraft, I don't know, Speedbird, call sign Speedbird, let's go for, why not, Speedbird 737, Speedbird 737, so air traffic control would be, at this point you would be on, who do you be with? You'd probably be with the approach controller for London, so you'd be with Heathrow Director more than likely, or perhaps Heathrow Radar is who you'd be with. So they would tell you from Bovingdon, if you were to follow this chart in front of you, they would tell you Speedbird 737, turn, let's say you've come in from Bovingdon along the 118, so they'd say Speedbird 737, turn right heading 179, descend, turn right heading 179, descend, maintain 7,000 feet. So you do that, and then once you got to this point here, they would be telling you Speedbird 737, turn right heading 265, maintain 7,000 feet, you'd do that. They may tell you to slow down. Reduce speed. Speedbird 737, reduce speed 180 knots. Then at this point, they would say, let's see, what would they say at this point? I would say maybe at this point they would say Speedbird 737, turn left heading 179, turn left heading 179, descend and maintain 3,500 feet until established on the local, descend and maintain 3,000 feet until established on the localizer, runway 9er right, contact tower 118.5 or something like that. And then you basically follow that instruction down and you're contacting the tower, and then the tower would bring you, at this point you'd be in touch with the tower. So you'd be like, Heathrow Tower, good morning, blah 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 blah. Speedbird 737 is descending through 4,000 feet for 3,000 feet, establishing runway 9er right. And then they say Roger, blah blah blah, continue, and then they would go clear to land. When you come into this point, they'd go clear to land, runway 9er right, or whatever. Anyway, that's if they were vectoring you like that, but more than likely they wouldn't vector you like that. They would put you in a different pattern. So let's get on to the approach chart, which is the final section. Now, one of my Patreons, Chris, you said that this seems like the most complicated of charts, and yes, it does look very complicated when you look at it, but it is actually very, very easy. There is a lot of information on this that is, for the most part, superfluous or redundant. It isn't information that you need, or it is only information that is needed as a redundancy measure. So let's have a look at this. Now we're going to look at this one, which is an ILS path. We're going to have a look at this one, which is a localizer DME path. And then we are going to quickly have a look at this Jeppesen chart and just give you an explanation of that. But let's get on with this one. So we'll start with the ILS DME because that's what we've been following the whole way through. This is for runway 9er right. You can see that there. That is the localizer that you'd be tuning in. Bravo, Bravo. Aircraft categories A through D. What does that mean? That's just the speed that an aircraft goes at. So I think less than, and I can't remember these off the top of my head, but I believe less than 90 knots is category A. 90 to 120 knots. Category B, 120 to 140 knots. Category C, 140 to 165 knots. Category D, and 165 and above is category E. But mostly there aren't many aircraft that would land at that speed. In fact, I think the only aircraft that would land at that speed, aside from military aircraft, would be Concorde. I think Concorde's landing speed may have been somewhere up in that range. But aside from that, no aircraft are in category E, which is why it doesn't show category E. Now, for this, for some, category A through D will be shown on the chart as something that you need to do, but in this case it's not used on that chart, it's only used down here, and I will explain that in a moment. This little circle here with the numbers in, you might be saying, well, hang on a minute, that looks a little bit familiar, and it should, because if you look at this chart here, there are those numbers all over the chart. The reason it's now in this circle with these quadrants on it is because it would be too much of a cluster in this. It'd just be clustering everything up. It would be too difficult to read and it would just cause a mess. So that's why they've got that. And you can see MSA, let me zoom in on this for you. MSA, minimum sector altitude, the same as what we've been looking at, 25 nautical miles from the London VOR. So that's the London VOR. 25 nautical miles away from it. Again, all the frequencies are given there. AD elevation, you should know that from 2 lessons ago. Would it be 2? Yeah, 2 lessons ago where we had a look at aerodrome charts. That is the aerodrome elevation, 83 feet. That should also be familiar to you. Threshold elevation at 75 feet. Transition altitude 6,000 isn't something we have to worry about anymore. Obstacle elevation 1087 AMSL. Mean sea level, or 1,012 feet above the threshold. That is for the entire chart, and you can see that that point is right there. 1087 is there. It's a lit obstacle at that height, but you can see it's quite far from London Heathrow in that sense. As a matter of fact, I think that's a radio tower. I think that's a radio tower. I'll have to see. I can't remember the area too well, that obstacle, but I think it's a radio tower, as is that one and that one. I think those are all radio towers. Yeah, I think so. Anyway, the rest of the information is exactly as we always get. Bearings are magnetic and what it exactly is. So it's an approach chart or an approach plate. Looking down at this, let's have a quick look. Again, that information I'm not going to explain. We're used to that. We've seen that so many times now on every chart. We know what these are from what I showed you before. So these are airports. So you can see that's the markings for various different airports. And that's a military. That's an RAF base, RAF Northolt. So that I'm not going to explain anything about until we need to have a look at that further. Again, we've got an NDB, we've got two NDBs there. I'll explain why those two NDBs are there, particularly this one, in a moment. These points here, I'm sure you've already guessed it, those are spot elevations. So at that spot, that is the elevation. So at least you know how many feet up the ground is. And then those are contour lines. Very, very simple. You're probably wondering, why do they have contour lines and all this there? Simply because without them, you wouldn't. You're coming in so low over London, or in this case on the outskirts of London. You're coming in so low. You need to know that these are in that area. Then obviously we've got all the rivers. So there's the Thames, and you can see that going out that way. What it doesn't show are railways and motorways. So there is a railway that goes off down this side, and there is the M25 this way and the M4. But that is not needed on a chart like so. Moving on from that, we have what other information do I really need to explain? Yes, this circle. You can see this circle at the top. It says 10 nautical miles. That is a circle that is 10 nautical miles away from the London VOR. That's where it's from. It's a circle from the London VOR, which incidentally is pretty much on top of Heathrow Airport. It's sort of just to the side of runway 9 left or 27 right. So that's the London VOR. That's a 10 nautical mile radius around it. I will explain what that is in a moment as well, and why that is on this chart. And again, we have the restricted airspace for helicopters and all of that because of the activity going in, so we're not going to worry about that. That information, again, VOR DME, easy enough. London 113.6, that's easy enough to understand. The circle with a dot is indicating that we have the localizer, and then we've got the DME there for the airport. So that's the airport right there, and that is the localizer point. India Bravo Bravo 109.5. Very, very simple. Nice and easy. This over here, as you may have guessed, Ascot, that is a heliport. Simple. Right. Moving on from that, now that you can read that, we have these dashed lines along here, which is the glide path and the localizer. And we have that there. That is your final approach course, 90 degrees in, so, and it's giving you a direction. That there is your final approach fix, 7.5 nautical miles or 8.2 nautical miles from the London VOR, 7.5 nautical miles from DME reading 0. Now, you may be thinking then, is that 7.5 nautical miles from there? Or is it 7.5 nautical miles from the middle of the airport? Or is it 7.5 nautical miles away from the start? Well, that is also explained. It's actually from the threshold. I'm just trying to figure out where it's written. It may not be written on this page for this, but it's actually at the threshold is where that will read 0. Right, so now that's just telling you the path that you fly in. Straight in. That's all that is, and you can see that that's the glide path and the localizer for that. Pretty simple, isn't it? Once you break it down, you can get rid of these yellow markings, you can get rid of these spot points everywhere. If you were to get rid of these obstacles, that line, get rid of that, and get rid of this airspace, it's just an airport and a final approach fix and a course to fly. That's all it is. Really, really simple. Moving on from that, we can go to the next part of this. So let's have a look. DME, India Bravo Bravo, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, Thunderbirds are go. We have that DME there, and it's telling you what altitude we should be at all the way through. And that is also corrected for the height of the threshold. So you'll see that this is 75 feet, 75 foot difference from that to that, which is the 75 foot difference for the threshold. So you're going to be on an altitude of 2,040 feet, 6 nautical miles away, but you will be 1,965 feet above the threshold of the airport. Simple. Recommended profile, glide path of 3 degrees, which is 318 feet per nautical mile. That's what it wants you to do, and that's a nice descent rate. So you can see that every nautical mile, it's roughly going down 318 feet. In fact, it's 320 feet every nautical miles down. So that's all that is. Very, very simple. RDH 50, I will explain in a moment. But first we need to understand this. So you're at 2,500 feet, let's say, coming in for the runway. So you are established on the localizer at 2,500 feet. You get to this point 7.5 nautical miles away, where that X is. That's the final approach fix, again, from this chart here. You can see that X right there. There's the final approach fix. Let's get back to this. You can see the glide path there. There's that dashed line. That's that. So you can see that that doesn't only extend outwards in a point like so. It also extends upwards, exactly as you would expect. So you've got the localizer and the glide slope. Now, you follow that along as you're on the localizer. Once you get to that point, you are at your final approach fix. You begin your descent. That's your final. You are now on final. There's your course to fly, 090, same as that. And that is your descent profile all the way down. Glide path, 1,400 feet, 450 feet, 4 nautical miles, and 1 nautical mile away from the airport. There it tells you, I knew it would say it somewhere, India Bravo Bravo DME 0 range to threshold runway 09 right. So even though the localizer is at that end, the DME has been adjusted to ensure that when you cross that threshold on runway 9 right, that is where it reads 0. It just helps out. So at least you know exactly how far away you are, not from the airports, not from the end of the runway, but from the threshold, which is very, very important. When you're landing, it's very important to remember that it is from the threshold as according to the charts. Right, moving on from that, we can now have a look at this RDH. Now this is a reference datum height, if I remember correctly. Basically, it's the height that you should be at the threshold. So at the threshold, you should be at 50 feet above the runway. And that is where you end that descent path. So that's where you basically go into your flare. So you're coming down, 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 down. When you reach the threshold of the runway, your DME reads 0. You should be at 50 feet, and that's where you flare your aircraft. And you bring that vertical speed towards 0. So from whatever it is, in this case, 318 feet per nautical mile. When you bring it down from that, you then, or I suppose the rate of descent, let's say you're doing 140 knots, 740 foot per minute rate of descent all the way down. From that, you now bring it to 150. And this is where if you're flying jet aircraft and you've got the annunciator panel up and running, some aircraft also have it, some prop aircraft have it, and the announcement would be going 50, 40, 30, 20, 10. So that's where you have that. Okay, very, very simple. Let's move on to this little bit over here before we do this. Aircraft category I explained, so that's very, very simple for you guys to understand. OCA, OCH is just elevations. So it's obstacle clearance altitude, obstacle clearance height. You can see the difference is the threshold difference. So it's 75 feet. And that's for different category aircraft. Don't worry about that just yet. This is VMC is for visual approaches. We are not going to worry about that quite just yet as well. When we do get to it, I will explain what this is in far more detail, and then we'll be able to look at that. But so don't worry about these just yet. Obviously, the obstacle clearance is important, but don't worry about it too much, especially this one here. And rate of descent is just giving you ideas for the glide slope. So if you're doing the glide speed is 160 knots, 140, 120, 100. Let's say you're doing 140 knots on the descent. So you would be, I don't know, if it's a descent at 140 knots, you're probably a fully laden 737 or something. I think I land, what speed do I land a 737 at? It's been so long. 143 knots, I think, is my landing speed. So maybe you're descending at 143-ish knots. That's your reference descent speed per minute, 740 foot per minute. Very, very simple. Aircraft unable to receive DME for India Bravo Bravo, advise ATC, they will give you radar ranges. So they'll tell you where to be when you're established on the localizer and approaching the nominal final approach point and 4 nautical mile point. Very easy. Lovely. Notes, aircraft will normally be radar vectored from STAR. Like I said, they will be radar vectored from Bovingdon. So they may not even do the initial approach fix. Ranging information is provided by ILS dedicated DME facilities. DME values derived to the nearest 0.1 nautical miles from VOR DME London are also provided for the final approach point and 4 nautical mile check altitude heights. Basically, if you cannot get the DME for this, for the airport, you can tune in that, and that is where you will do your 4 nautical mile check. So it says there 4.8. So if you can't get it, that's where you tell ATC on the initial, you tell ATC, they'll give you some information when you get to this point. That's the final approach point. Then when you get to this point, which is 4.8 nautical miles, you tell ATC again, and they'll give you an altitude or a height check. Very, very simple. Now, to look at the last bit, this part here, what is this? That is a missed approach procedure. So if you miss this, all you do is you climb straight ahead to 3,000 feet and then continue as directed. ATC will tell you where to go. In event of a radio failure, if you do not have a radio, then what you need to do is you need to do exactly what you're doing here. Climb straight ahead 3,000 feet. But if you cannot get instruction from ATC anymore as to where to go, you will follow this instruction. This is a path that has been cleared for all aircraft in case of radio failure. On passing the London DME 10, turn right to NDB Epsom at 3000. So that's all you need to do. And that's really simple. That's pretty much as simple as it gets. So all you do is you say, right, there's Epsom. This one here is Chiltern. This is Chiltern. This one here is Epsom. So you'll go over here, and then once you get to this point there, you then turn and you go to Epsom. So you just turn, and that's way. Now, this one over here, the Chiltern Valley one, so the Chiltern NDB, that is for the other runway. The other runway will be, you go up until you reach a certain point, and then you turn, I think it's a 03, heading 037, I think. You head up there, and again, radio failure procedure is when you get to that point, you then turn in to Chiltern, and then you do your hold. So that's again a holding point, and it's a 1 minute hold at altitude 3,000 feet. 1 minute hold, 3,000 feet, and that's your hold. So that's really, really simple. Nothing to it. Similarly for the localizer DME, the only difference here is that you don't have a glide slope. As you can see, there is no glide slope. So what you need to do instead is you need to follow all of this instead. So you can see it's got a gradient, same sort of thing, but it's giving you a gradient. It tells you different distances at different places and where to be and where not to be. This section above, all the way you need to be above 630 feet because of the height of that. So you can see there's an obstacle at 630 feet there, a hill in fact, and so you've got to be above that, and then you just follow it all the way in. Again, the same information here, range to 0 there, same information, MAPT, missed approach procedures, same information there, DME 0.5 though. So you can see here, you make that missed approach decision at 0.5. So that's the latest you make that. Whilst on here, you can see that missed approach, you can take it right down to 0. So you can go all the way down to 50 feet essentially, near the threshold before you can claim missed approach. But most people will do it earlier. I think 200. I think the actual height is 250 feet is your decision height for London Heathrow. 250 or 2. Yeah, I think 250 is the decision height for London Heathrow. So 250 is probably pretty much there. And that's where you decide. But anyway, that's all there is to it. Now to quickly finish this video off, let's have a look at the Jeppesen charts for this. Very, very simple. It's almost the same. You can see there's the missed approach procedure. Climb straight ahead, 3000, then as directed. In event of radio failure, see 11.5. 11.5 is a different page, and it will tell you the exact same information. What other information do we have here that might be of interest? Well, that's Wembley Stadium right there, I believe. So that it just shows that. We've got, yep, it is a radio mast, it seems. So we've got, it's just giving you a bit more information as to what these are. These can be used as visual reference points. Same thing here, final approach course, frequency for it, London, there's the London VOR DME, there's the localizer for it, as it's showing in sort of the middle. You can see that there are different approach points or fixes. That's Chiltern NDB, that's the Epsom NDB. Any restricted airspace is shown there. Other airports are shown in blue on this, and then we've still got the same approach spots there. We don't have contour lines, we do have the rivers. Instead of RDH, instead of RDH we have TCH, this, which is the threshold height, similar, 52 to 50 feet, same thing. Runway threshold is given there, it's also given there, and there's the airport elevation given there. Your minimum sector altitude is shown there, but you can see they have combined 3 of the 4 quadrants together because it is the same minimum sector altitude in that area. All the rest is pretty much given as you would expect. There's the decision altitude for ILS, 275 feet, not 250, 275 feet, which is 200 feet above the runway. So that's your decision height. Your glide slope, as you can see, 4 nautical miles, 1,400 is where you need to be. There are your frequencies, once again. Any other information? No, that's about it. Again, we're going to ignore the runway visual ranges for now. This is all about the VMC and all of that. So we'll have a look at that after. And we'll ignore circle to land too. And then that is your missed approach procedure as directed in simple form. So that's just saying straight ahead, climb to 3,000 feet on 090. That's pretty much it. Tells you that it's got PAPI indicators and what type of lighting systems it has. And that is all there is to an approach plate. So hopefully that has given you a pretty good understanding. If you don't understand these, please do go through all the previous lessons a few times. If you're not understanding these aerodrome charts, see if you can gain understanding and study a few different ones. Don't just look at the ones that I've looked at. Go pick up a few of your local airports or whatever you want to see, an airport that you want to fly to, this, that and the other, whatever you feel like. Have a look at them, see the slight differences. None of them are exactly the same, though the same information is displayed. Obviously each one has a different approach procedure, departure procedure. The approach charts could be different, the initial approach fixes may be different. Some of them may not even have an initial approach fix. They might not have that initial approach procedure. A smaller airport, for example. In the video that came out yesterday, Bristol Airport that I landed at in Flight Sim World doesn't have an initial approach procedure. It's just from a star immediately to one of these approach plates, and that approach plate is a little bit complicated. So what I'm going to do is in the next video we are going to start having a look at a solo flight where you are flying and following this, and I will be giving you references. I will give you a full rundown of the flight, a full briefing, and we will just fly it. And I expect you to be able to have an understanding of this. I will still give you references, still give you guides as to when you're switching, but I won't be explaining what this, that, and the other is. I will just be saying, right, we're doing this to this, onto this route, onto this route, to this star, and I expect you to be able to look at them and look and see exactly what I'm doing and follow along as I am doing so. So hopefully that works for you guys. Again, don't forget to support me on Patreon. Link to that is in the description box below, www.patreon.com/ecgadget. Your support would be very, very appreciated. And if you haven't covered all the previous lessons, please do go look at them, because you will need to know your six-pack. You will need to know how to go around an airport. You will need to know your takeoffs, your climbs, your descents, your turns, your landings, your circuits. You will need to know how to get from VOR to VOR, how to tune them, how to read them, how to adjust the navigational instruments. You'll need to understand an autopilot. You will need to understand flying from A to B, and you'll need to have a complete understanding of all of that, so that you can get the most out of the next few lessons. Thank you very much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time in the Ground Up Advanced Flight Tutorials.